Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone had a good summer. It's good to see you. And let's start. First, to introduce a new member to the HFA and AHC boards, the Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, Jerry Boone. Sir, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Came down here. Adam, why don't you start things out?
I'll just note for the record that Elaine McCann, representing Budget Director Mary Beth LeBate, is participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, Room 131 in Albany, and Bethida Gonzalez from the Syracuse Regional Office, 620 Erie Boulevard, Suite 312. I'll ask for motions and seconds to call to order the September 10, 2015 meetings of the New York State Housing Finance Agency, the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation, the State of New York Mortgage Agency, State of New York Municipal Bond Bank Agency, and the Tobacco Settlement Financing Corporation. Motions for HFA and AHC. Second. Motions for Sunny Mae and second. Motions for MBBA and TSFC and second.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
All items are presented to each board throughout today's meetings. These motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any board member or director wishes to record his or her vote differently.
Okay, before we proceed with today's agenda for HFA, SUNY Mae, and AHC, I'm going to ask that our MBBA and TSFC boards take up some important appointments that were approved by HFA, SUNY Mae, and AHC at their July meetings. First item is listed as item 2 on the MBBA and TSFC agenda, and is a resolution appointing James S. Rubin, okay, as President and Chief Executive Officer to MBBA and TSFC.
Looking for a first and a second?
Yeah.
I'll do it first.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
This is pretty routine, I was
Yeah,
saying.
that was real tough. That was a toughie.
It's tough when you're sitting across from the guy to vote no.
Well, if you're going to do that, just give me a heads up. I'll have him turn his head so we can see what it is.
Then I'll duck.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay. The next item on, let's see, the next item on is item 4 on the MBBA and TSFC agenda. Is a resolution appointing Ruth Ann Vishnuskis as Senior Vice President and Executive Deputy Commissioner of Housing and Development for MBBA and TSFC, where she will be overseeing the financing programs. Mr. Rubin.
We've talked some about Ruth Ann. I think she's been introduced to certain members of the board, but various boards. I can't keep everybody straight all the time yet. In the past, Ruth Ann just briefly has a very accomplished record in the affordable housing field. Most recently with New York City, where she was at HPD for 10 years, I think, rising ultimately to be the head of HPD, the commissioner of HPD at the end of the Bloomberg administration, beginning of the de Blasio administration. She then spent about a year at the Robin Hood Foundation running their affordable housing activities, and was good enough to come back here and help manage the various development activities and the community development activities at the agency. We're lucky to have her, and lucky to have her be willing to sit on all of these boards or be officers of all of these corporations. So I recommend her highly.
So we're looking at, she can't hold the job, is what you're saying.
It's a problem for all of us.
No, it's great to have
Mr.
her.
Chairman, is this person, is Ruth Ann in the room?
Sitting right
She
there.
is.
Apologize, I should have.
Hello?
So if you're going to vote
There you
no,
go.
she's behind you to some extent, okay?
You know, okay, it's great. Just for the record, we don't have a housing division in the Tobacco Agency or in the MBBA, but we understand that Ruth Ann is going to be occupying sort of an overall oversight position, and
Correct.
in that capacity, we of course move the motion. Andy?
Second.
Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motions,
Okay.
motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
The next item is item 5 on the MBBA and TSFC agenda, and is a resolution appointing Adam Schuman as Senior Vice President and Counsel for MBBA and TSFC Commissioner.
Again, kind of an awkward moment because the guy's sitting right here. So you're going to have to take a lot of this on faith, but Adam Schuman comes to the agency from a long and distinguished legal career. A lot of the folks in the agency have already gotten to know him. He was a federal prosecutor in Eastern District. Adam, I'm going to forget some of this. He was a commercial litigator for a little while. Then went to S&P, division of S&P Credit Ratings, division of McGraw-Hill for X number of years, where he took over, ultimately ran S&P Ratings legal division, and had other titles. He ran it, ran the legal activities there during a time of crisis, post-2008, and I think everyone would say put them back on solid footing with regulators is an incredible accomplishment. Created an international group of lawyers. He's come in here, and in 3 months, I think has done a lot to unify the legal departments and the various legal activities of a bunch of very complicated and not yet fully integrated agencies. He's got something like 100 lawyers under his purview, and I think whereas before they were treated as 10 lawyers, 10 lawyers, 10 lawyers, 10 lawyers, 10 lawyers, I think many of them would say that they're now more like one unified legal agency, which I think is going to benefit everybody, including all of our various boards. So I'm delighted to be able to recommend him.
Any questions?
No, we know him.
We have a motion.
Andy?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
I want to go to President Rubin for the President's report.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome back from your vacation. I'm going to read some of this, and then I'll make a couple of extemporaneous comments. I'm going to keep it very quick. We're heading into a very busy season, so I'm excited to have a little bit of time under my belt and the belts of the various new senior members of our management, as well as a lot of the, now it's post-vacation, all the folks at the agency who work so hard have had a chance to rest, because the next 3 months, I suspect, we're not going to give them much of an opportunity to do that. The agenda today indicates that, as you can see, we expect another record year in affordable housing production at the state. I'm pleased that we've been able to implement Governor Cuomo's mandate laid out in the Housing New York program, and I'm absolutely confident that we're going to continue to provide more decent affordable housing for all New Yorkers in the years to come, as well as serve the rest of the agency's varied mandates. A couple of details about what you're going to hear today at the agencies. Before we, at the prior meetings today, the Mortgage Insurance Committee approved insurance for 7 new projects representing 430 units of affordable housing located in New York City, in Westchester, in Orange, and Dutchess counties. And much thanks to Mike Friedman and Lauren for their excellent work on those. On the multifamily side today at HFA, we're going to be seeking your approval for a number of interesting projects, 7 in total, with nearly $400 million in bond financing, representing over 1,100 units of housing in 5 counties across the state. So again, representative group, the kind of work that Marion and her team have done for so long. In administrative items, you'll be updated on agency investments, procurement, and bond sales via our quarterly reports. The agency financial statements for the 2nd and 3rd quarters are included in materials, and you're going to hear some about those. You will first, I think, be asked to approve the appointment of a few more senior officers, and I'll be speaking about them when their names are proposed. And I think you'll get a sense that while the agency has an extraordinary group of people working here already, it's no secret that that over the years the workload has increased way out of proportion to the number of people here to do the work. And I think what we've been able to do in the first few months here is bring in some folks who can take some weight off of people's shoulders, and we're going to be making an effort to continue to do that. But certainly, this is a good down payment on that. At AHC, you're going to be reviewing awards being sought totaling just over $2.3 million. These awards represent assistance to 113 units of housing outside of New York City, including the counties of Monroe, Erie, Clinton, Steuben, Orange, and Oneida. And finally, just a couple things about what I've been doing in the last few months. I've been here now, I think, almost exactly 3 months. It has been a busy time. We've done a lot of traveling. I've been to Rochester for a couple of days. I've been to Syracuse for a couple of days. I've been to Buffalo for a couple of days. I've been to Albany a lot, which I guess is sort of part of what I signed up for. And obviously have spent a lot of time here in New York City at all 3 of our offices here, Gertz, which is where our ORA is located, downtown at Beaver Street, and here in 641. And obviously the travel pattern is only going to continue. I should say also that Ruth Ann Wisnauskas, for example, he just heard about, has also been on for a couple months and has done a lot of that traveling. She's been to Utica in addition to what I just listed. I've not yet been to Utica. I'm looking forward to it. I've also been to Niagara Falls. I forgot that, which is beautiful. Betsy Mallow, you're going to hear about, has done some traveling as well. So the senior staff that we brought on has made an effort to get out into the field and meet the development community, the nonprofit community, go see some of the work that the agency has done. So we're, I think, doing a lot to hit the ground running. And obviously, I'm not including in all the traveling and hard work that the rest of the staff has done. That's, I think you sort of have to assume that. And if doubts, you can take a look at the bags under their eyes when you have a break. And more importantly, look at all the work that the board is going to be approving today. I would say my impression so far is that I would say I had high hopes coming in, and I've probably met 300 or 400 people at this point, one way or another, and spent some substantive time with, I don't know, 100, and actually done some work with some smaller number than that. The people who work at this agency are really extraordinary. They work incredibly hard as anybody I ever worked with, or harder, in my 15 years on Wall Street, and in my time at a big law firm before that. It's a dedicated group. They perform at the absolute highest level. They deserve a lot more money and a lot more help than they get. In a lot of ways, I think my job is to try and secure more resources for them and then protect them from some of the nonsense that happens in the world at large, and let them do their work. And that's what I'm committed to trying to do. But you should rest assured that what they do incredibly well. And I'm really honored to be here leading the agency, even in just this short time so far. You'll be hearing more over the next few months about some of the things that we're going to do in the years to come. I will tell you, this is a spoiler alert, we are working on a statewide housing plan, details to follow. But this agency and the state have not really put together a housing plan like this at least for a long time. And we're very excited about it as a multi-unit cross-agency effort. There are probably 35 or 40 people heavily involved at some level, and then lots of others besides that. So we're excited to have that to roll out to you sometime in the future, once the governor blesses it, obviously. With that, I will conclude my report. Happy to take any questions, but really just turn it back over to the chairman.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Anything? All right. I think Adam is going to report on committee actions.
Okay. First, a report on the Mortgage Insurance Committee, which took the following actions earlier today. It adopted the minutes of the June 7, 2015 meeting, recommended approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $13,900,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for 2264 Morris Avenue, Bronx County. It recommended approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $7 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the Muse at Hopewell Junction, east of Fishkill. The committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $3,300,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Temple Hill Apartments 1, New Windsor, Orange. The committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $2,575,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Peekskill Art Lofts, Peekskill, Westchester County. The committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $4,825,955 Wells Fargo Bank NA permanent mortgage loan for Essex Crossing Site 6, New York County. The committee approved 100% mortgage insurance on a $3,314,000 LIIF permanent first mortgage loan for 31-33, 39-41, and 51-53 West 129th Street, Manhattan, New York County. And last, it approved a $440,000 increase in 100% mortgage insurance on the $5,280,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Creekside Springs, Franklindale and Creek Road, Wapanger Falls, Dutchess County. Any questions before we move on to the audit committee? I'll report on the audit committees of HFA, AHC, Sunny May, MBBA, and TSFC, which met on September 8th and took the following actions. All 5 committees adopted minutes. All 5 agencies recommended the approval of the administrative budget request and financial plans for fiscal year 2016. For Sunny May, the committee adopted a resolution approving Sunny May's servicer audit of Ulster Savings Bank report together with management's response. For AHC, the committee adopted a resolution approving AHC's internal audits report together with management's response. For TSFC, the adoption of a resolution approving TSFC's internal audits report. All 5 agency committees received a presentation on the audit plan from the agency's independent auditors, Ernst & Young, and all 5 agency committees reviewed the report of administrative budget expenditures for the 9-month period ending July 31, 2015, and the 6 months ending April 30th, 2015, and updated financial plans. And all 5 agencies reviewed the financial statement update for the second and third quarters fiscal 2015 and the first quarter fiscal 2016 for AHC. Are there any questions on that report? Moving to the third report of the governance committees, which met on September 8th for HFA, AHC, MBBA, and TSFC, and met earlier today for the Sunny May Committee. These committees took the following actions. All 5 committees adopted minutes. All 5 committees recommended for approval the amendment of the agency's bylaws. HFA, Sunny May, MBBA, and TSFC committees adopted a resolution to enter into financial printing contracts and cash flow analysis software contracts. For HFA, Sunny May, and AHC committees, they adopted a resolution of the contract with Benefit Resource, Inc. for administration services for the agency's Qualified Transportation Expense Benefit Plan, and reviewed the annual contracts with Automatic Data Processing, Inc. for payroll processing services. The Sunny May Committee adopted a resolution approving the master servicer agreement with M&T Bank and the consultant contract with Doug Dilla Consulting, LLC. For HFA and Sunny May, the committees adopted a resolution approving their financial reporting services contract with Bloomberg LLP and approved the Sunny May Custody Services Agreement with the Bank of New York Mellon. The HFA committee adopted a resolution approving the firm's use of a pre-qualified panel of technical assistance providers related to the Manufactured Home Cooperative Fund Program. The committees of HFA, Sunny May, MBBA, and TSFC reviewed certain financial services and arbitrage rebate contracts with ELX Group LLC, with Hawkins, Delafield & Wood LLP, and with Omnicap Group LLC. And last, the HFA committee reviewed the legal services contract with Denton US LLP.
Instead of mouthful there.
Back to you, Chuck.
Let me thank the members of the committees, by the way, for the work that you've done. Really appreciate that also. Thank you so much. We'll now present items shared by HFA, AHC, Sunny May, MBBA, and TSFC. Adam will record the approval of the minutes.
The minutes of the meetings of HFA, AHC, and Sunny May held on July 7, 2015, and those for MBBA and TSFC held on June 11, 2015 shall be deemed approved, absent further corrections from members and directors.
We'll now move to the shared action items. Item 2, resolution amending and approving the agency's bylaws.
These are technical changes largely to the bylaws, most significantly adding to the list of senior officers to conform to certain organizational changes under Commissioner Rubin, also adjusting signing authority to a subset of senior officers consistent with the new roles, and last, to conform with state guidance, except in the case of TSFC, the proposal is to amend the bylaws so that participation in board meetings should be in person or by video, not by telephone, to qualify for quorum purposes, although, as I mentioned, we will adjust the resolution consistent with an item pointed out by Mr. Diallo in committee. TSFC actually has statutory authority for telephone participation, so that will be the one exception. Now before all 5 boards is a resolution amending and approving the agency's bylaws consistent with that description. Assuming the first and second previously entered for all 5 boards, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 3, resolution appointing Elizabeth Mallow as Senior Vice President and Executive Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer. Commissioner.
So Betsy Mallow is, I realized before I didn't, so that's her right there in the front row. Betsy Mallow is, again, a terrific talent to be able to bring into the agency. In this case, I have a little bit more ability to speak personally about what she brings to her new job, because I've worked with her for 3 years. First, in a 9-month stint at HUD on us heading up a Sandy task force, Hurricane Sandy task force. Then when the governor hired me to run the state's recovery from Hurricane Sandy and Irene and Lee, Betsy came with me and was my deputy there, excuse me, and helped take the agency, was instrumental in taking what didn't exist, from 0 people to 10 people to 150 people, and a spending pace of well over $1 billion a year, which is a lot harder than it sounds. And then she was good enough to come over here and move up the ranks at HCR, and is now going to be a senior vice president, executive deputy commissioner, and chief operating officer. Betsy's going to have responsibility for a big chunk of the agency, overseeing a big chunk of the agency, and doing, to some extent, what I described my job as earlier, which is taking weight off of the shoulders of people who are doing a great job but are massively overworked, and helping to secure more resources for them, and then adding some of what she brings to the table where appropriate, which is real private sector experience and also just raw talent. Betsy's terrific. I hope you all have a chance to get to know her. She's going to be a huge asset to the agency, and she's also a terrific person, like everybody else that we're bringing on board. But I'm really delighted to be able to recommend Betsy for approval of the agency.
Any questions?
Now before all 5 boards is a resolution appointing Elizabeth Mallow as Senior Vice President and Executive Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer. Assuming the first and second previously entered for all 5 boards, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 4, resolution approving Meredith Levine as Senior Vice President and Chief of Staff. Commissioner.
This must be what it's like to sit around and listen to people talk about their kids. There's not too many more of these, I promise.
You have a lot of kids.
I do have a lot of kids. Meredith Levine comes to us. It's going to be Senior Vice President, Chief of Staff. Meredith comes to us from a terrific legal background. She's got a political background. She's got communication skills. She was most recently with New York City, working for a couple of years as policy director and I think deputy chief counsel for the city's Hurricane Sandy recovery effort, and was instrumental in helping set that up. They had a different structure than we did, and they had some issues that we didn't have around, obviously, changing administrations from Mayor Bloomberg to Mayor de Blasio, so Meredith has lived chaos, which I think would be helpful to her. She's a tremendous talent. She's got a breadth of skills that are going to help her, again, help run the agency in many, many ways. The agency hasn't had a chief of staff, and I think for an agency of this size and complexity, it's a critical position. I'm delighted to bring Meredith on. She's sitting right there in the front row next to Betsy, between Betsy and Ruth Ann.
Any questions?
Now before all 5 boards is a resolution approving the appointment of Meredith Levine as Senior Vice President and Chief of Staff. Assuming the first and second previously entered for all 5 boards, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 5, resolution appointing Mark Cologne as Senior Vice President and President of the Office of Housing Preservation. Commissioner.
Okay. Mark,
child.
my next child, yeah, exactly. This is sort of an adopted child. Mark, I think he just called me Dad. Mark, who's sitting in the 3rd row back there, there he is, has been at the agency for 7 years? 5 years? 7 years. This is a promotion, obviously. Mark, I've gotten to know Mark a little bit over the last couple of years. My interaction with him when I was doing the Sandy work. He's a terrifically talented lawyer. He was a bond lawyer before this at a big Wall Street firm. He has community development and community organization background. He went to the wrong law school, but I guess we can forgive him that. Didn't hurt me. And even in the short time that we've been working together, he's got an enormous amount of energy. He's really, really, really smart. He's highly responsive. He's got a nice feel for all the different parts of a really complex job. He is replacing Rich McKernan, who some of you knew, who, when I came on, I was told the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that Rich McKernan is retiring, and so you better do something about that. And I took the easiest way out, which is that I found Mark Cologne and prevailed on him to take the job. And we are, again, lucky to have him, lucky that he's willing to step up and do more work. And it's my great pleasure to be able to recommend Mark for promotion to this job.
Any questions other than which law school?
Any-
Go.
Now before the AHC and HFA boards is a resolution approving the appointment of Mark Zalon as Senior Vice President and President of the Office of Housing Preservation. Assuming the first and second previously entered for AHC and HFA boards. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 6, resolution approving the administrative budget request and financial plans for FY 2016. Chief.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're requesting the approval of 3 items by the board today. The approval of the agency's fiscal year 2016 administrative budget not to exceed $57.936 million for operating expenses for the 5 agencies. Approval of each agency's financial plan, which shows 2016 and 3 additional years of forecasted revenues and expenses for each agency, and the approval of the cash or program budgets for HFA and MBBA, which shows sufficiency of funds for debt service payments on the bonds. The revenue sources for the administrative budget consist of $31.9 million or 55.2% from HFA, $22 million or 38% from Sunny Mae, and less than 7% from MBBA, TSFC, and AHC combined. The increase includes an increase in staffing from 221 budgeted FTEs to 230. The increase is to accommodate the restructuring of the senior staff to include an executive level, to add additional legal staff, additional accountants, and internal auditing staff for compliance and internal control issues. In addition, we need to hire some staff for succession planning, as many staff members can retire within the next 3 years. At the board's request, we included a column with the actual count of staff members as of 7/15, which was done before the posting of the budget on Harris. That's shown on page 11 of the budget request package. The increase in personal services, which includes salaries, health and dental insurance, and pension fund costs, added a 3.6% increase to the budget. IT maintenance costs and consultants increased to replace our aging equipment and to provide for additional consultants needed to ultimately replace our IT system and take in-house the Sunny Mae Express processing. That, coupled with increased insurance and rent costs, created the 2.9% increase in other than personal services. Staffing has increased from last year's level of 192 to 210 when the budget was posted, and we had 16 hires in the approval process queue at that point, resulting in the request for the increased budget for FTEs from 221 to 230 to give us some flexibility in hiring. Discretionary spending continues to be less than 7% of the budget and remains essentially the same as last year. For the financial plans, as we did last year with the approval of the Controller's Office, by using accumulated funds available to cover out year's expenses, and in the case of AHC, using funds from the parent agency, HFA, we are able to show that no deficit will occur in the forecasted years. For the preliminary cash and program budgets, which are required for only HFA and MBBA, these show sufficient funds available to pay debt service, and finals will be provided in January with the year-end financials. And I need to thank my staff that's here and those that aren't for their help, as this is challenging, and thank you.
Just one quick question. You said the FTEs for this year is it 221 to 230?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any questions. Just a couple things I wanted to say. I had Sheila and her staff and I worked a fair amount on this.
Yes.
I guess it's a couple months ago at this point. It's a lot of work, and she's exactly right. Her staff worked really hard on it and does a great job. It was great for me because I got a chance to immerse myself a little bit in the work that they do, which is complicated, but it's great. I also want to thank Elaine, who's on the phone on the video over there. We did, obviously, this is an iterative process with, to some extent, with DOB. Even though the relationship is sort of complicated, nonetheless, we're absolutely committed, and Sheila's committed to maintaining a strict control over our operating expenses, and I think that this budget demonstrates a willingness and commitment to doing that. And it was only with Elaine's help and her staff's help that we were able to do that as well. So,
Thank you.
It's a real budget. Commissioner Boone knows how important it is to the governor that we bring it in under the wire, and we did it. So, thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
I know you have some legacy systems and you're looking to replace those, so you feel your investment allowance is sufficient to address that?
Yes, I hope so. We've provided for consultants in here. We're going to need some additional hires and staff for the Sunny May Express, consultants, and probably some on our IT side to accommodate the needs there and the needs for ongoing replacement.
So at this point, you're going through your RFP,
Yes.
or about to RFP process?
Yes, we received, I believe it's 7 proposals. So we're looking at them now. Some of them are partial, some of them are complete replacements, so.
I know something about legacy systems, so I'm glad to see that they're being addressed.
Yes, finally, we're at the point of getting them in, so hopefully.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Yeah, I have a question about the IT acquisition program. I was just noticing that in the overall multi-agency budget, that for 2015, the amount budgeted for capital expense and the amount projected for capital expense shows a significant decrease.
yes, we were able last year to purchase some, this year, purchase some software and equipment that we needed. So we were able to do it with the money we had for this year, so we think we might need less for next year. We're hopeful.
Otherwise, you'll be back.
Right.
So despite the decrease there, you're still saying that right now you anticipate that you'll have sufficient funds to significantly upgrade?
Well, the major capital purchases that we're gonna have to make are gonna be over a period of time, and they haven't, like we said, we just got the RFPs. We don't know what those capital expenses are gonna be yet, so we'll figure that
Right.
out going forward.
Other questions?
Just one, on the staffing note,
Yes,
it's on page 12. It's more of an observation, I guess. I mean, we've been projecting to do more transactions. We've got the Drama portfolio. There's lots of talk about, doing more deals. And while we're bringing in executive staff, which is terrific, I guess my concern is that we have enough people to do the work. And does the staffing plan anticipate the level of staff that will be needed to get the work done? And because hopefully we'll be able to attract more people. And I'm just wondering if this gets adjusted going forward, or whether this reflects the staff needed to do the deals that we anticipate.
I think it does. There was a staffing study done by the HR area to look at our staffing needs over time. And in conjunction with their results, we put these numbers together. So hopefully there are sufficient people.
Look, staffing is clearly an issue across the agency. Not just in Sheila's area, or not just in Marion's area, but if you asked Woody Pascal, who runs rent administration, give you chapter and verse about how much fewer people he's got to do basically the same amount or more work. as he had, 10 years ago. Woody wasn't here, but as there were 10 years ago. So it's an issue across the agency. We are doing a lot of work at looking at our staff. I mean, candidly, there's no way that we're going to be able to address all of our shortfalls. We have budget constraints that won't allow for that, obviously. But what we're doing is asking all the, and this started under my predecessor, by the way, asking everybody to take a really hard look at where they really need resources. And by the way, where we need succession resources and have to do succession planning, whether it's from within or bringing in outside talent. Because we do have a workforce that is very experienced, and at some point, people decide that they're done. We're lucky in the case of people like Rich Kernan or whatever that we can find folks inside to promote. And I know we've got great talent here. We've got to keep the pipeline full. Jerry and I were just talking about that before. So the short answer is we think we can continue to do the work with the staff that we've got, but we are going to be making targeted hires where the budget's going to allow us to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I have another question about the HFA budget on page 24 and the increase in other non-operating revenues, which I understand comes from from agency reserves.
Yes.
And just because it is a substantial increase there, what is the impact on the agency and on reserves? Or why is this suddenly increasing by such a substantial amount?
I think it's just ongoing, increasing operating expenses of the agency and a larger portion being attributed to HFA.
So just on that, when you look at the charges for services, that drops from last year's actual 46 million to the next year adopted of 31, and obviously the total revenue and financial sources stays relatively level, but a variation on Joyce's question is sort of what does that shift represent? Because that's also a significant drop.
Right.
This year there were a lot of revenues from charges for services because there were a lot of deals
Right.
that were closed. You can't anticipate doing that every single year. So this year was larger than we would have, than we could have anticipated straight off.
And how does that compare to sort of a 2 or 3 year trend? I mean, is this a significantly anomalous year?
Yeah, it's usually somewhere around 30, and this year we're estimating it to be over 40. I think we even made it higher when we did the thing in the front because it's been a lot of 80/20s that closed, I guess, that had more revenue.
Yeah, I would just like to come back to, so you're excuse me, anticipating a decrease in revenue from service charges, and you're making that up with increasing the amount of revenue that's coming from reserves? Is that what that is?
Well, we conservatively project, right?
Well, it's the revenues that you didn't spend the year before you had available for next year.
So the reserves are actually just unspent revenue from prior years? So it's not coming out of, how should I say, it's not having any kind of major impact on the agency's financial structure or anything like that?
No.
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 That was basically my concern. As soon as I see the word reserves, that sends up a,
Flag.
yep.
Other questions?
Well, it's a very complex budget, and you're to be congratulated on it.
Thank you.
Nothing else?
Now before all 5 boards is a resolution approving the administrative budget request and financial plans for fiscal year 2016, assuming the first and second previously entered for all 5 boards. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
We'll now move to the 2 shared consent items. There'll be no discussions on the next 2 items on the agenda unless board members directly so request. Item 7, review of third quarter investment reports. Investment reports for HFA, SUNY May, MBBA, TSFC for the period ending 7/31/15, and the first quarter report for AHS, AHC for the period ending June 30th, 2015.
Now before all five boards is a resolution reviewing and approving the third quarter investment reports for HFA, Sunny May, MBBA, TSFC for the period ending July 31, 2015, and first quarter report for AHC for the period ending June 30, 2015. Assuming the first and second read is standard for all five boards, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 8, approval of third quarter bond sale report. Adam.
Now before HFA and Sunny May is a resolution approving the third quarter bond sale report, assuming the first and second read is standard for HFA and Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
We'll now move to the shared information items. There'll be no discussions on the next 3 items on the agenda unless board members or directors so request. Item 9, review of agency's quarterly procurement report for the period ending July 31st, 2015. Item 10, report on administrative budget expenditures for the 9 months ending July 31st, 2015, and 6 months ending April 30th, 2015, and the updated financial plans. And item 11, financial statement update for the second and third quarter fiscal year 2015 and the first quarter fiscal 2016 for AHC. Okay, there being no further items for MBBA and TSFC, boards, Adam, ask for a motion to adjourn the MBBA and TSFC meetings.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the MBBA and TSFC boards, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With enthusiasm.
The motions are enthusiastically carried. The meetings are adjourned. The next MBBA and TSFC meetings are scheduled for Thursday, December 10 at 8:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thanks.
Enthusiastically heading out the door. Okay.
Running back downtown.
Good seeing you again.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, next question.
We'll now move to the SUNY May items. Note that the next 2 items on this state mortgage agency agenda were discussed and voted on earlier at today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting. They're now up for vote by the SUNY May board. There'll be no discussion on these items unless the directors so request. We'll now move on to the votes. Item 12, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $13,900,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for 2264 Morris Avenue, Bronx County. Adam.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for 2264 Morris Avenue, Bronx County, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay. Item 13, a resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $7 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the Muse at Hopewell Junction, Route 376, East Fishkill, Dutchess County.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving mortgage insurance and a commitment for the Muse at Hopewell Junction, Route 376, East Fishkill, Dutchess County, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 14, approval of SUNY May Express related contractual agreements with Overture Technologies, Alice Chen Hua Chen, and Bella Viri. An annual review of the contract with Xerox Mortgage Services. Hi.
Hi, sorry about that.
Item 14.
Morning, everybody. Want to introduce Sherry Eccles for those of you who don't know her. You're going to consider in the next item appointing Sherry as the SVP of single-family programs. We're here before the board to ask for authorization to enter into a number of arrangements to purchase the software that we're using for Sunny May Express. Sunny May Express was something we started several years ago because lenders in the market were saying that Sunny May couldn't process loans as quickly as conventional lenders could. So we invested in a relationship with a software company to develop something that would allow us to replicate the way conventional lenders were originating their loans. We're coming to the end of an existing contract with Overture, and we decided rather than continuing a relationship with one sole source code provider, that it would be better for the agency to take that source code in-house, have more control over our destiny, and staff up and bring all the resources that we needed to make that happen. And that's what we're before the board with today. Sherry's going to give you a little more of the details of what we're doing and talk to you a bit about the feedback we've gotten and where we are in terms of bringing lenders onto that system, our decrease in processing time, and general market acceptance of what we're doing.
Good morning, everyone. The Sunny Mae Express system has succeeded in cutting our average application to closing time by 50%. So it's made a significant improvement in our process, and the feedback has been recognized market-wide. We've had a number of lenders that had stopped doing Sunny Mae business re-engage with us. We've had a number of new lenders sign on and a record amount of interest in the program. We've improved loan quality. The first pass approval rate on Sunny Mae loans has more than quadrupled. The loans that come through Sunny Mae Express versus the loans that come through our traditional channels. So we've seen operationally a huge improvement in efficiencies as a result, as well as an improvement in quality. In terms of feedback, we just actually, I'll give you one little anecdote. We had a meeting with Genworth yesterday, and one of their regional representatives from Buffalo indicated that he had been in the Buffalo office of M&T Bank, which is one of our users, and they were demonstrating the system for him and raving about the benefits and how much easier it is to do Sunny Mae loans now. And he said that these are people who could complain about anything, and they went on and on about how wonderful everything was with the system. So we're very pleased with the way that it's working, and we'd like to continue to improve upon it. And so we looked at our options. We determined bringing it in-house would be the best way to do it, and it also will enable us to include a number of enhancements that would have been quite costly under our Overture contract. And by bringing it in-house, it's something that will be part of our normal cost and not any additional increase. So we'll be able to make the system even more functional. We're anticipating a savings of approximately $500,000 over the course of the next 7 years as a result of doing this, as well as removing the unpredictability of what we were facing in terms of continued renegotiated contracts with Overture. And it's providing us with stability in regard to continuing to provide the baseline technology that's necessary for us to continue doing business the way that everyone else is. And so right now we have our 2 largest lenders actively using the system. We have another lender that's in the test mode, and we have 7 other brand new lenders that we've recently brought on board. So we're looking to get them going, and then we have a pipeline. There's a huge regulation coming out as a result of CFPB called TRID. Takes effect October 1, and so we have a huge pipeline of lenders that are queued up to go on to the system once they're past their TRID conversion.
And so we expect to have everybody on board in the next 2 years.
Couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, and look, I think it's a good idea in bringing this in-house. It takes it away from us being held hostage by an outside provider, really a sole source provider. Does the system, and will the system, you talk about everybody coming on the next 2 years, the system has the capacity to expand, to accept all the lenders that you may want to put on the system?
Yes, the system does have the capability to expand, and internally we are in the process of doing all the operational changes we need to make sure that the staff is capable of reviewing the automated loans versus the paper files that we're currently looking at.
Questions?
So this will involve substantial retraining of staff, but it doesn't require additional staff? Is that?
We are only anticipating additional staff as a result of increased volume. We have seen an increase in volume and an increase in interest as a result of the option of using the system. So obviously that with more loans will mean that we'll need some additional staff, but actually the efficiencies from a staffing perspective would make those needs less than they would have been without the system.
Questions? Other questions?
One more, just
Sure.
quick. So In terms of logistics, we actually were able to bring this in-house because of the timely availability of 2 consultants who are part of the initial development of the system. So that would be Alice Chen and Bella Vizzi. And we have contracted with them to come on with us at the end of September. They're going to spend the first month here training with Overture, as well as verifying that the system in the source code that we've received is functioning properly and is as it should be. And then they will be working diligently to train staff internally so that at the end of 3 years when their contract terminates, we're completely self-sufficient, in addition to working on debugging any additional things Overture was unable to take care of and putting the previously noted enhancements in place.
So these are 2 people that worked for Overture,
Previously, yes.
and we had a contract with Overture.
Yeah, both of these employees, because Overture was purchased multiple times, both of these employees previously left during changing of hands. So they're outside of their clauses in terms of
Right.
not being.
I guess I'm wondering, do we have any obligation to Overture? Do they have any rights over the software?
We're purchasing the rights of a copy of the source code from Overture, and then we are hiring previous Overture staff to handle the system for us.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Now before the board for approval, there's a resolution approving Sunny May Express related contractual agreements with Overture Technologies, Allison Hua Chen, and Bella Viri, an annual review of the contract with Xerox Mortgage Services. Assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 15, a resolution appointing Sherry Evans as Senior Vice President of Single Family Programs. Ms. Rubin.
Should have had that one first.
So Sherry is another terrific person who was here when I got here and has been here, I think, a couple of years at this point. Okay. Has a really deep background in single-family work in the private sector at banks. I think it was, I want to say it was First Albany.
M&T.
M&T. Okay, great. I'm going to get this. She's incredibly knowledgeable. Again, she's replacing somebody who was really part of the DNA of this agency for such a long time, George Leocatis. And I think represents, she's going to be able to carry on George's work at the same high level of energy and expertise and commitment that George did, and hopefully for just as long as George did, which is like 30 or 35 years, something like that. Sherry's terrific. She's clearly a leader. She's smart as hell. She's got a lot of policy background. She is based in Albany, but she's here every time I look up, so clearly she's got the ability to travel around a lot. Marion, when I walked in the door, even before that, Marion said, this is sort of, we need this. Maybe Marion, you want to say a couple quick words about Sherry before we let her go?
I would say my biggest challenge is keeping up with Sherry's energy, because she's always coming up with great ideas about what we can do to enhance what we do in the Sunny May program. She's fabulous. I look forward to working with her in this new role. Totally support this.
That's great. Well, we're lucky to be able to do it. So.
Another adopted child.
Another adopted child.
Let me tell you.
Fantastic.
Any questions?
Now before the Sunny May Board is a resolution appointing Sherry Eccles as Senior Vice President of Single Family, assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, item 16, the next item on the agenda is to review the quarterly swap report as of July 31st, 2015. This is an information item. There will be no discussion on this item unless the directors so request. There being no further items for the SUNY May Board, Adam will ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meeting.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for the Sunny May Board, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried. The meeting is adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 15, 2015 at 8:30 a.m. Also note, as the board members are aware, we've scheduled an educational session for the Sunny May HFA and AHC boards, likely to be held at Florida Law School. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. On October 13th, more information will be forthcoming about this event, and we look forward to the session.
All right. Let's move now to the HFA action items. Adam.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Call the meeting to order.
At this point, I call to order the 48th Finance and Program Committee meeting of HFA, which will be held jointly with the board meeting. Can I have a motion to open the committee meeting?
So moved.
We'll use these recorded votes as we move forward. The minutes of the 47th meeting of the HFA Finance and Program Committee held on June 7, 2015 shall be deemed approved absent corrections from the members. Then be moving to item 17, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $198 million for 325 Kent Avenue, Brooklyn, Kings County.
Big picture, what's before the board today, we have 6 new financings for the board to consider, 380-20s, 3 all affordable developments. The 380-20s are notable in that every single one of them is being done on a private placement basis. So it's really, as I've been mentioning, definitely the trend we're seeing in that sector of the market where banks are buying the loans directly into their portfolio because of the lower cost versus issuing a letter of credit and selling bonds in the public market. First one up is 320.
Do we care about that, Mary?
We don't care about it. We've gotten to the point where we have certain ways that we do them. There's legislation that put the private placement ability into place several years ago. I think over time, both the industry and the agency have settled on a pretty consistent model about what things look like so that it's, for us, it's usually easier to do things that we've done before. So we do try to keep things sort of within this band of what a deal looks like, but I think it really doesn't matter if it helps facilitate the financing of the project. I would say I'm indifferent to it. As long as we can put in the controls. We're very cautious about who can own the bonds, how the bonds can be transferred, making sure that they only transfer either in their entirety or in very big pieces. So bonds, unenhanced bonds, don't end up in unsophisticated investors' hands. The first development for consideration today is 325 Kent Avenue, sometimes also called Domino Sugar. Folks are familiar with the former Domino Sugar plant. We're asking for authority to issue up to $198 million of tax-exempt and possibly taxable bonds with the expectation that we'll actually issue $180 million of bonds, $35 million of which I want to make sure you guys all right. So our normal financing strategy on 80/20s is just to finance the 20% with tax-exempt bonds. And that's what HFA is going to provide to this project, $35 million of bonds to finance the 20% portion. Typically, we would finance the remainder with taxable bonds or with a participation loan. In this instance, because of negotiations between the city and the borrower on this particular development, the city has committed to provide recycling proceeds to fund the market rate portion. It's in many other developments, we're working with the city anyway to bring their recycling proceeds into our bonds through refunding them into our bond issue. And here the difference is that they're providing up to the remaining $145 million of bonds to fund the market rate. So it's not coming from the HFA pot, it's coming from the HDC pot.
So how does that work as a practical matter?
So practically, when we issue bonds, our bonds refund the HDC bonds. Just like we can refund our own bonds, we also have the ability to refund the HDC bonds. And so we've been doing that for years. There's a sharing between the agency that has been in effect for at least 3 years, where we've been bringing their excess repayment bond. We call it recycling, but basically it's a repayment of bonds that come in during the first 4 years. We do it on our own projects as well, on affordable deals. When the tax credit equity comes in at conversion, there's usually a pay down of the bonds. We issue refunding bonds. We take that recycled proceeds and put it into new developments.
So in terms of cap, it's still 180 million?
No. No. In fact, what we would expect of new volume cap, I want to call it roughly about 18 million of volume cap. We're going to put recycled into our $35 million piece, and then all of the HTC piece, although we're issuing the bonds, is recycled. It's not new volume cap. It's a reuse of cap. The project itself is a 17-story building in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, 522 units, 104 of which, or 20%, are available for households at or below 60% of AMI in perpetuity. The developer is, the borrower for this development is an affiliate of the of Two Trees, whose principal is David Walentis. We've done a number of other developments, largely in Brooklyn, with Two Trees. Two Trees Management will manage the building, and an affiliate of Two Trees will also be the construction manager.
Questions? More questions? Additional questions? Any other questions?
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
All right, let me note that a revised set of materials for this item was sent to HFA members yesterday, and that these are the materials we're considering today. Item 18, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $80 million for 15 Hudson Yards, 553 West 30th Street, Manhattan, New York County.
15 Hudson Yards is the first residential development in the Hudson Yards section of Manhattan. We're financing a tax-exempt loan to fund the affordable component, which is 106 units of affordable housing. We're also going to originate and then assign the loan to finance the market rate portion of the building to Children's Investment Fund. The affordable portion, again, as I said, it's going to be structured as a private placement with Citibank. This building, if you'll bear with me, I don't have a picture, so I'm going to have to do it sort of, like this, visually. Has a base of a culture shed. The culture shed is being separately financed, then the affordable component, and then the market rate component. On top of that, there are a number of conversations.
When you say culture shed?
The culture shed, I want to call it a performance space. I think the expectation for the culture shed is that's where, this is so outside my area of expertise, performance space, but it's where the New York fashion shows are going to move once the culture shed is up and operating, and it will be operated separately from this building. If you ask me a tough question, I'm going to have to get the borrower up here, but go ahead.
Not that tough. The culture shed, will there be any liability to the building or any responsibility for?
I'm going to ask Greg Ushage to come up to ask any culture shed questions.
No, it's operates part of the building technically, but it's.
Why don't you come up forward?
This is Greg Ushage from the related
How are you?
companies.
The Culture Shed is a 200,000 square foot cultural facility designed and run by a nonprofit, also funded and backed by the city. It's been in the works as part of the original requirements of Hudson Yards master planning, and it's run by a nonprofit, run by Dan Doctoroff, and they've raised most of their funds already, I believe. And it's really, we are not at any risk to them. They never build for some reason. That's okay, we still build. And they attach on to us. So it's a little sort of off building that's attached to us. They're technically part of our building, but all the systems are essentially separate, and there's really no risk to us. Yeah.
And they're separately financed.
It's really separately financed, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Should I keep going?
Absolutely.
Okay. Development is being developed by related companies, who the agency has certainly done a number of properties with. It will be managed by the related companies, and the construction manager is an affiliate of the related companies as well. The building will contain a number of green, can't find them right this second. Green features, as all new construction has. And yeah, it's pursuing, here it is, LEED Gold certification. There's been a number of conversations, but sorry, just one more thing, between the agency and the borrower. Because of the unique nature of this development, the agency has asked for additional affordability. So instead of all of the units being at 60%, which I think is what's reflected in the board memo, we have 5 units at 50% of AMI. And the borrower has agreed in their non-union construction developments underway, which does not include this building, that they will partner up with NYCHA's construction training program and take a minimum of 25 workers over the next 3 years onto that site, with their understanding and certainly hope for more.
Mary? 2 things.
Yes.
Joyce, if you'd like to give your question, then I'll follow up after.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mary, I was wondering, could you just explain very briefly the construction training program that you were referencing when you said
Sure.
it would utilize participants in the NYCHA program?
Right.
Would it be on a temporary basis, or how would that work?
First, I want to give kudos. I assume this was Ruth Ann's idea. To bring NYCHA to the table. NYCHA runs a training program for the residents in their buildings, and it covers a range of different skills that they train residents for, one of which is a construction training program. And they have several hundred graduates of that program. And the way it would work between NYCHA and Related is Related would put in a job order to NYCHA and say, you know, we have space to bring X number of people on site to a particular building. It's not necessarily a permanent job, but it's because these are construction jobs. You know, you're just working as the building's being constructed. But we have a need for a particular skill for this period of time in this portion of the construction of the building. Does that answer your question? It's really kind of exciting. I'm hoping we can make it work here and maybe prevail on other borrowers as well.
Joyce.
Okay, the easier one first. In terms of the green aspects of this development, one of the things I noticed that was not mentioned is the innovative waste disposal system, which is only used on Roosevelt Island, I believe, and which will have significant impact on air quality, etc.
We're doing a few things in that. We believe we are trying to be at the forefront of waste disposal. We have 3 chutes that separate the trash, right, which is unusual in the city. It's not required. And we are planning for a future in-back system, which is what you referred to at Roosevelt Island. Just given space constraints, we're not sure that will be up and ready when this building opens. So we're building it sort of in-back ready, if you will, so that when we complete the rest of Hudson Yards, put the in-back sort of plant in, we can go through the proper permitting process through the city and convert it to that system. For now, it's a somewhat standard system until
It's to be congratulated on the use of this technology and this innovative.
Thank you. No, we're trying to be at the forefront of all these things.
Are there any other unique features? In general for the building?
Yes, I think. We are pursuing LEED Gold So there's a whole checklist of things that we do. And the Hudson Yards development as a whole has a huge host of things that we're trying to do. Massive cogeneration plant, right? So we are off the grid. This building will have its own generator, so it'll take off peak performance from the city's requirements, as well as provide power during an outage. We have multiple water filtration systems. We also believe in building healthy buildings, so we're pursuing lots of aspects there. So.
And are these feasible just because of the size of the project in general, or?
Well, in general, related has a commitment to be at the forefront of sustainability, healthy buildings, resiliency. And so we're trying to incorporate as many of these things in all our buildings. But the larger scale does help for some of these aspects.
Thank you. The second question just has to.
This is the hard one?
Yeah, this is the harder one.
You knew it wasn't going to be easy. Come on. All in favor?
Yes, Joyce.
It has to do with actually the ownership and financial structure, because I notice here it refers to solely to the construction of 106 units of multifamily housing as a part, separate from the construction of the entire building. And I'm wondering, it wasn't quite clear to me whether this means that these 106 units will be completely separate from the rest of the building in terms of ownership, financing, except for the responsibility of the rest of the building for any shortfalls.
Very good question. During construction, it is built as one, just because it's one building.
Right.
At the completion, they will have separate ownership and separate financing. And there will be, just the way the condominium law works, and HVA has negotiated to have the condominium declaration set up so that if there is a shortfall, the rest of the building will pick up that shortfall. So the rest of the condominiums, so 285 four-cell condominiums, if there is an operating deficit, the common charges, essentially, that are charged to the affordable unit will be altered so that there's no operating deficit. And most of the costs of this building are common charges, so it covers your basic income. So it's a much safer situation than pure standalone.
Okay, and in terms of the financing structure, this sort of complicated construction financing process with the loan from Citibank going to the agency and from the agency.
Yeah,
what is the reason for that?
It's actually a structure we've also used in affordable transactions. The reason is really a preference of Citibank. Again, it kind of goes to the same issue of banks wanting to take loans onto their books and being able to take credit for lending as opposed to issuing a letter of credit. So there's financial reasons for the bank to do it this way. There's CRA credit reasons for banks to do it this way. And so the agency is committed to try to work with the financial sector to try to get them where they need to be to meet their Basel III requirements, their CRA requirements. And we try to balance that with not giving us too much brain death so we can't get through, all the different deals we have to do.
But why is it going through the agency rather than directly to the developer? Is there?
Because the agency has to originate the tax exempt loan.
I'm sorry?
The agency has to originate it in order for it to have the tax exempt.
Okay. And does that mean the agency is responsible, or is Citibank responsible for overseeing the construction financing, approving?
Well, the agency actually always plays a role, in addition to the construction lender, in approving the requisitions.
Right.
And that's the same in this case as well.
But the agency won't be solely responsible.
No,
the bank
the
will also
lender
be
is always
lender will be. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it will look, like any other construction loan. We will have similar oversight. The bank will have similar oversight.
And the final piece, which has to do with the ownership structure and the fact that these are two separate buildings within one building, will the tenants in the affordable units have access to any of the facilities that are available to the owners of the condos?
There's one shared lobby, right, with two entrances on different streets, but all residents of the building, rental or condo, use the same lobby. And then there's different amenities for the condominiums, and there are amenities for the rental section as well.
But if there are parking spaces, for example,
those are open to anybody.
The affordable
Yep,
units will
absolutely.
also have a share of,
There's minimum parking spaces, and like most facilities in Manhattan, they're just open to whoever can come and pay the fee.
right, okay. Thank you.
Can you say a word or two about how the participation works?
Yes, HFA will originate a loan and assign it to Children's Investment Fund. It's really as simple as that.
So on the total amount on the.
The 930, yes,
Yeah,
that's
930.
really the change from the original to what was submitted to the board yesterday, was to allow for the flexibility to originate that loan and assign it to Children's.
So, but our exposure as an agency is at the full 930 million?
I would argue that we don't really have exposure. We have no credit exposure on either one of them. One of the things that the board should note is that the loan to finance the affordable piece is superior to the loan to finance the market rate piece. So we're in first position. And I'm looking at Barbara in case I've.
I mean, we've done similar things.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we've
Barbara.
done this before. Barbara Roslin is the lawyer working
Buying
on
or
this transaction.
participating interest of a mortgage, so we have to have authority to issue, to originate the mortgage in the full amount, even though our exposure is only on this.
The pro forma that we're presented with here, this is the pro forma for just the affordable units, is that
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
Yes.
I'm sure you're looking at it probably.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. And one thing which just occurred to me, which probably should have occurred to me a while ago, when we look at the income level for these, I'm sorry, when you look at the income level for the affordable building, this is really a question for HFA. Is that also somehow related to family size, or are there certain family size requirements that go along with that?
Yes, there is an adjustment for income levels based on family size.
Okay. Nice project.
Anything else?
Just had a quick question on the back-to-back structure.
Mhm.
From a borrowing cost perspective, what sort of difference do we see from the more traditional tax exempt variable rate, LOC?
I think one of the big difference, though it's the same for any private placement, in a typical letter of credit deal, the borrower is incurring the interest expense on the full amount from the date that the bonds are issued. And we usually structure, in fact, we always structure private placements in a drawdown basis so that they're only accessing the proceeds that they need for that particular construction requisition. So it lowers the cost of negative arbitrage during the construction period.
Any comment on the cost per unit?
You
I
notice
don't know
that?
how to respond to that.
Seems to be the highest one we've kind of, at least the level
I
on
think
the board.
it's definitely among the highest. There's a couple of others that we're seeing on the horizon that are also above our average. I think when we look at something like this and try to think about investment per unit, if that's where you're going with this, Steve, I think we do take into account the opportunity to site affordable units in parts of the city that would otherwise be very difficult to achieve.
The high cost, though, is that also related to the adjustments that have to be made because of the unusual construction site?
I think all construction costs, this is just to me, all construction costs are going up. We're not happy about it either. This is a 70-story building, top of the line. This will be the nicest affordable housing in the world, probably. And the site is a little complicated than most. It's a large master plan site. But in general, just tall buildings are very expensive these days.
Any other questions?
Can I ask one, not so much related to this project, but I mean, this is going to be a record year for us, it looks like, and we've got a lot of projects we're moving through, and some of these have a pretty long time horizon. This is a
6-year construction.
I don't expect the construction to be 6 years. They have a commitment from their lender for 4 years plus 4 6-month extensions. So that's gonna include the stabilization period as well.
So my question is more of a macro one, and we don't have to go into detail now, maybe for our retreat in October. Just what, we talked about this before, but it'd be helpful to know a little bit more about what we do in terms of stress testing. I mean, I'm happy to hope the market will always stay at the level that it is, and this structure. You know, the annual payments are really based on cross-subsidy from the rest of the project. But what do we do to kind of assess our macro risk in the unlikely event the market in New York somehow turns down? We're putting a lot.
And how do we ensure that these low-income piece
Right, exactly.
will always be able to operate?
And again, it's not about this project,
Okay.
but something that I think would be helpful as a board member
Okay.
to get a little bit more
We'll
on.
put that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? One thing, and let me thank Marion for the work on this project. Really good work. And as we've moved through this, the commissioner and his staff have also been very good and very diligent in providing oversight on this and really paying attention to it. And finally, Ruth Ann, great solution. Really liked the NYCHA, the inclusion of NYCHA residents in being able to work on this project. I think it sets a great precedent. And, on this one, yes, Related was responsive. Related companies where I don't think they had a choice. But really good work on this, really good suggestions. So all in all, it was really good, comprehensive, overall work on behalf of the team here. So I'd just like to thank everyone on this. Any other questions? Moving right along.
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
I guess clearly what the chairman said is exactly right. And I guess just some of the questions from the board indicate that there are, clearly there are policy issues around this kind of deal. And you should know, the board should know that, we're all aware of the policy questions that this raises, and this kind of deal raises. Nothing related to this deal in particular. This is just going to come up over and over again. And I would say we're beginning to engage with staff in a process of figuring out how we feel about them. The fact is that the world continues to change, and we have to be flexible. So whether it's continuing to talk to developers about additional aspects of their deals, or other things, we're certainly cognizant of everything. So we're not. This isn't sort of the last word on this kind of transaction by any means. But this, I think the outcome here is good.
I think I would agree. I think the outcome was a good one here. The one thing that the commissioner just said, on a policy basis, this is going to require, projects like this are going to require discussion on behalf of this board. And I think, the retreat's probably a very good place for us to kind of begin that discussion, because this is going to happen. We're going to have these conversations again and again over the next few years. So it makes a lot of sense. With that, moving right along, item 19, thank you, Mary. Item 19, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $51,700,000 for 125 Metropolitan Avenue and 94 North 3rd Street, Brooklyn, Kings County.
In another Williamsburg project, actually walking distance to the prior one. This is 75 units. 15 of which are affordable. I would put this in the small 80-20 category. We're expecting to issue up to $47 million of bonds, 8.2 of which on a tax exempt basis, 38.8 on a taxable. The affordable units in this development are going to be affordable in perpetuity. This has inclusionary zoning, obviously. The building is being built to meet enterprise green community standards. It will contain 4 condo units. This is very typical of what we're seeing in our 80/20s, where there's a division, legal division, a physical division, between the market rate units, the affordable units, the commercial space, and in this project, a separate condo for the parking. The development, excuse me, the borrower for this project is 84 North Street Realty, whose principals are the Hudson Companies, and Catamount Partners and ABS Partners. We've done at least one other transaction with Hudson, also in Brooklyn. That one was near Prospect Park. Lisa Management, which is owned by Hudson, will be the managing agent, and the general contractor is KSK Construction Group, which has done a significant amount of work in New York. What else can I tell you about this development? This transaction will also be financed on a private placement. The bonds in this case are being bought by Wells Fargo. Wells has made a commitment. This is very typical. What we're seeing in these transactions is that we have a commitment from a lender through the construction period with a stabilization period with an expectation, and somebody's going to come in with a mini perm. And, you know, as Jamie said, the market is evolving considerably. We no longer see 30-year credit enhancement for developments such as this, so people are putting their construction financing in place and then looking for permanent financing when they get to the point that the project's stabilized. We don't allow that on affordable deals. There we want certainty. These sorts of projects have much more flexibility and resources to be able to handle uncertainty in the market.
Any questions?
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. The motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 20, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $26,310,000 for 2264 Morris Avenue Apartments, 2264 Morris Avenue, Bronx County.
Hi, thank you. As Marion mentioned at the beginning, we have a wide variety of projects before you today. The 3 80/20s, but the 3 affordable projects represent an interesting mix of work. This first one is a supportive housing project that is integrated as well as mixed income. We'll have a Mitchell-Lama ESD House New York project, as well as a disaster recovery project. So it's a nice mix of work. So the first project is financing of 2264 Morris Avenue in the Bronx. It is an integrated MRT project, so it's participating in our Medicaid redesign team program, and it's also mixed income, which is increasingly an important thing we are working to do in areas like the Bronx. This is the new construction of 94 units of housing located in the Fordham neighborhood of the Bronx. Sorry, thank you. 79 units are expected to be set aside for tenants with incomes below 60% of area median income, and 15% of the units are going to be available to people with at middle incomes. 31 units are available to people with serious mental illness, and those are the supportive housing portion of the project. The total investment is $46.1 million. So this is going to be an 11-story building. It's going to contain a wide range of unit sizes with 31 studios, 23 one-bedrooms, and 25 two-bedroom units, 14 three-bedroom units. As I mentioned, this is an MRT project, so the 31 Units will have supportive services that are provided by SUS, which is a nonprofit association that has a substantial housing portfolio in the city. The developer here is Bronx Pro. We've got experience working with them. The letter of credit is being provided by Chase. Sunny Mae is providing permanent insurance, and the investor is Redstone. Project like this has substantial leverage. We have $5.8 million that was previously approved in Medicaid redesign team. We'll be seeking Homes for Working Families funding from the HTFC board after HFA board concludes here. But there's also $4.6 million of New York State Office of Mental Health construction capital, and OMH is also providing debt service in the amount to support an amount of $9.3 million. There's also $7 million from the City of New York, housed HPD, and HUD project-based vouchers in the amount of 8 provided by HPD. We are seeking $26.3 million of tax-exempt bonds and an annual allocation of $1.4 million in low-income housing credit. There's an additional request. There's an additional request that we'd also like to make that's not in the board memo. This project was also scored and deemed eligible for our new middle income program, and the applicant had applied for $1.24 million for that new program. That's a new subsidy program that's being provided through HFA. This is an interesting time of year as we gear up for a large number of transactions that are going to close in the next few months. We initially intended that this program would utilize just Homes for Working Families, but the demand for Homes for Working Families is high. We want to be watchful for these projects that are moving towards approval in the next couple months, and the allocation of $1.24 million of middle income program funds for this as an alternative will allow us to have some flexibility. Last year we did a similar arrangement when we appropriated an option for either SLIC or HFA subsidy for a couple projects, and that worked out well. We, if approved, we would of course report back to you when the decision is made. This project is a good candidate for the middle income program because of its mixed income nature and being
location.
And location. Doing a project with mixed income in the Bronx is exactly the type of thing that the community is looking for.
So I sometimes think of it as like we're cooks in the kitchen, you know, and we know where we know what we're going to make, let's call it spaghetti sauce or something like that, you know, and we just want to have access to as many ingredients as possible to come up with the best mix. We know this project will include units up to 130. We want the flexibility to access one of 2 subsidy sources.
What kind of neighborhood is it?
Fordham? It's in the Fordham section.
Yeah, it's in the Fordham section. Yeah, I mean, it's...
I grew up right
You grew up
here.
there.
You know, market rents do support rents above 60. You know, this is not a neighborhood that's going to support rents, you know, all the way up to what somebody earning 130% of AMI would. So that's why we want the flexibility. It will allow us to do it if it makes sense, especially to advance other transactions with Homes for Working Families. And, you know, it just gives us that the right ingredients to advance the most number of projects most efficiently.
I just have a question about the affordability of these supportive housing units, because I noticed that there are 2 different rent levels there. So the question, first question is why?
There's a section
That's on
units.
page.
Those are the section 8
Yeah, there's
units.
8 Section 8 units. So
Those are the 8 Section 8
Exactly.
units? Okay. And
So the OMH is providing the debt service that allows the, and the operating funding that allows the supportive units to be.
nice of them to give us a project-based Section 8. The other question, though, has to do with the rents of the other units, $493 a month, which I believe is above the shelter allowance that's allowed by New York State.
You know, I don't have an answer to your question off the top of my head. that doesn't necessarily mean that each of these tenants are confined by that. I believe that the OMH support assists the tenants in providing the debt service flows through this transaction in a way that makes the units affordable to the tenants.
Any other questions?
Just a quick question on the OMH construction capital piece. So when we get to the permanent status, is paying the tax credits take that piece out? So it looks like it's zero in the permanent piece.
Tax credits are zero?
No, the OMH construction capital.
Right, so
there's
there's a
paying
number of
tax
sources
credits.
from OMH, exactly. So the credits come in and take out the construction loan.
And on the permanent, the 9.3 million permanent mortgage, is there a service contract securing that debt service? Is there some sort of contractual arrangement?
From OMH that
OMH. Yeah.
subject to annual appropriation.
Right. That's how all these transactions have been financed.
One last question on the OMH payments. So is that time limited, or how long does that continue? I mean, when you look at those pro forma, it's about $582,000 a year.
It supports it for the entire term of the mortgage, but it is subject to annual appropriations for the budget.
Okay.
So that's an acceptable level of risk that we've been allowed to.
Right, but let's be clear about where that risk falls, because what HFA is issuing is bonds that are we're issuing bonds. The mortgage itself has a letter of credit from Chase during the construction period, and it's the expectation that it will have enhancement from the Sunny Mae Mortgage Insurance Fund during the permanent. So that annual appropriation risk is really when we put on our Sunny Mae hat.
And they've already left, so.
Right.
Are they? Yes. Right, but we care about them, right? We want to make sure they're still around to pay debt service. But the
not funding this source would be a pretty serious issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Not just for this project.
I just had one other question, I'm sorry. In the sources and uses of funds, it talks about the MRT subsidy and the HPD subsidy and the HWF subsidy. That really refers to the subsidized loans, correct? That's
Correct.
not an outright subsidy.
Those are the subordinate loans that MRT and HWF comes through Housing Trust Fund Corporation.
Right.
Exactly.
They're not subsidies in the sense that one thinks of a.
No, exactly. They are subordinate financing that is
Okay.
interest only payable by.
You're just breaking out the principal and the interest there?
The interest is the amount of interest that accrues during construction. So when you see the permanent source, that HWF, for example, subsidy loan interest, that's the interest amount that accrues during the construction period that's not payable, it just accrues.
Until
and
occupancy, right, okay, thank you.
All right. Together with the additional flexibility mentioned for the middle income program, 1.24 million, now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. The motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Item 21, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $9,440,000 for Valley Vista Apartments, 118 to 122 West Seneca Turnpike, Syracuse, Onondaga County.
So here we're seeking financing for Valley Vista in the city of Syracuse. A little bit of context is that this is one of our 35 House New York projects. We have closed 16 of the 35 House New York projects. There are additional 2 that are approved that we anticipate closing, and this additional one will make the total 19 of the 35, which keeps us
well ahead of,
ahead.
Right,
Okay,
it's
exactly.
2.25 years into a 5-year commitment, and we're well past the 50% mark.
With more to come this fall.
Yeah, and I have the gray hairs to show for it.
Yeah, and I have no hair to show for it. So anyway, so this funds the rehabilitation of 124 units of Mitchell-Lama affordable housing for seniors. 95% of the units, or 118 units, are affordable to households whose incomes are below 60% of AMI, and the other 5% will be available to households at or below 95% of AMI. We're asking for $9.4 million of tax-exempt bonds, $4.5 million of Mitchell-Lama loan, Mitchell-Lama subsidy loan, and $504,000 annual allocation of low-income housing tax credit. There's a lot of L's there. This involves the acquisition and rehabilitation of a 7-story, 2-elevator building. It's on almost 4 acres of land in the city of Syracuse. The 124 units include 110 one-bedrooms and 14 two-bedrooms. As part of the transaction, there will also be 31 project-based vouchers to assist. The project was built in 1974 under the state's Mitchell-Lama program. There are a number of on-site amenities that you would expect, including laundry facilities and community room. There are also on-site services available for no cost to assist the seniors in information, services, benefits, crisis assistance. Near to the project, there are a number of restaurants, pharmacy, other needs such as a supermarket and library. The repairs and improvements are substantial. The hard cost per unit is almost $50,000. This includes repairs to the units as well as substantial energy improvements, including new windows, low-flow plumbing fixtures, Energy Star appliances. I'm going to say this, but I don't know that I can tell you what it is, but it's the installation of an energy-efficient hyperheat system, which apparently is a efficient system that will help achieve energy savings. 8 of the units are going to be also be made ADA compliant as part of the transaction. This is a related party transaction where the managing agent is purchasing the property from the owner. So the purchase price includes the assumption of some debt as well as assisting with the exit taxes from the investor who's exiting the transaction. The developer is a partnership between Sutton and Bentham. We haven't done HFA projects with this organization, but they have done 2 9% low-income housing transactions with our colleagues at DHCR. The letter of credit is provided by Chase. The investor is Boston Financial, which at $1 is an interesting and impressive number for upstate in the city of Syracuse. Insurance is provided by Sunny May. Do you have any questions?
Questions? No questions? Go.
Okay, I'll note that Mr. Weiss is recused from voting on this matter. Now before the committee and the board, a resolution is to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 22, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $7 million for Owego Gardens Apartments, Village of Owego, Tioga County.
Thank you. So this item is for the financing of Owego Gardens in Tioga County. This is, I believe, the second CDBG-DR disaster recovery project financed by HFA. The first one, Ludlow, we anticipate closing shortly, a few months ago, by HFA. This will involve the new construction of 62 mixed-income senior rental building. 62-unit mixed-income senior rental building. It's in the village of Owego. 24 of the revenue-generating units will be available to tenants with incomes below 50% of AMI, 23 units below 60% of AMI, and 7 units at 90% of area median income. Governor's Office of Storm Recovery previously authorized through the HTFC $6.8 million of community development block grant disaster recovery funds. That's part of a larger partnership where HCR is working with $100 million to do multifamily affordable housing development. The project will be a 3-story wood frame building. There'll be 50 one-bedroom units and 12 two-bedroom units. It's on 5 acres of a larger planned unit development in which a variety of uses will exist. It'll utilize sustainable features, including Energy Star heating and cooling equipment, appliances, and light fixtures, with water conserving plumbing fixtures, and floor coverings that are LEED certified. The developer is home leasing. We've done a lot of work with home leasing, both on the 9% credit as well as the bond side. Investors, Boston Financial. Letter of credit is being provided by M&T, and the insurance is provided by Sunny Bay.
Questions? Questions?
Note that Mr. Weiss is recused from this matter. Now before the committee and board, a resolution is to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 23, resolutions authorizing financing approval of an emergency subordinate loan in the amount of $1 million for 753 Clausen Avenue, located in Crown Heights, Oakland County.
So Mark Fletcher is going to join us for this. Let me just, big picture, talk about the fact that in this past budget cycle, the legislature and administration made available $25 million of money to help repair existing Michelamas outside of the UDC portfolio. These, all of the Michelamas were constructed, 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're all aging. Many of them are in need of immediate repairs, and that's what we have before the board today, a request for an emergency loan to a particular project in Brooklyn.
Okay, 753 Clausen Avenue is located at the corner of Clausen Avenue and Park Place in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. It's 13 stories, 139 residential units, was originally built as staff housing for Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, and currently still has a majority of its residents as staff housing for Interfaith Hospital. When Brooklyn Jewish went out of existence in 1994, the board of this nonprofit housing company was taken over by DHCR staff, and the board still consists of staff from HCR reporting actually to Mark Cologne. This spring, the project started having some fairly severe roof problems. Basically, the project was first occupied in 1968, and all of its major systems are past their useful life, and it needs a significant recapitalization. Staff, however, has looked at the issues. It's had some, as the P&A said, it has had some distresses from the roof leaking, and we believe it strongly that it's prudent to invest money now to fix the roof before winter. The heating system may not be as reliable as it could be, so we're investigating also upgrading that. The project also has been under financial distress and has a significant water and sewer arrears. New York City chart, first, that's an issue because that preempts the state's lien on it. The current mortgagee for the project is the people of the state of New York through the controller. This was, I believe, originally funded by general obligation bonds approved by a referendum before most of the people in this room were born. So the state is actually the mortgagee in the project, as well as the lender and the regulator, and currently the board, and we're looking to make a loan. Long-term, Mark staff is working very hard to find an appropriate not-for-profit to take over the board and develop a long-term plan. We really feel it's prudent now to address these issues and make sure the project is in good shape for that. If we're asking members to approve this loan, I also want to tell the members that we completed a background check on New Bedford Management, who is the current managing agent, and the results were acceptable.
What's the mortgage on this project?
The current mortgage is $650,000. The project is old enough that even though it's a 13-story, 139-unit building, it only costs $2.2 million to build.
Wow.
1802?
Any other questions on this item?
I assume you'll come back to the board with a longer-term plan when that's ready.
But in the best of all worlds, it'll be financed as a tax-exempt bond transaction, but I can't say for certain that'll be the most appropriate resolution there.
And we're also undertaking, a scrub of the whole Municipal portfolio, sort of outside that HFA UDC world to make sure that there are other similar situations that we're addressing.
Now before the board are resolutions to be adopted that are transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered. The HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Item 24, resolutions authorizing issuance of refunding bonds in the amount not to exceed $6 million to refund existing affordable housing revenue bonds issued for Kennedy Plaza Tower Apartments, City of Utica, Oneida County.
Back in 2010, the agency issued bonds to finance Kennedy Plaza, which actually was part of the UDC Mitchell portfolio before we took it over. The new issue bond program, which was sort of the umbrella under which we issued the bonds at that point, was a federal response to the difficulty many housing agencies had to access the market in the aftermath of the financial meltdown. And the feds, acting through the Treasury with oversight of Fannie and Freddie, had agreed to lend to HFAs at what was then a very attractive rates. That gift came with certain strings attached to it, which was considerable oversight over underwriting, construction, et cetera, that has sometimes created delays in our projects moving forward. And we have a portfolio of hundreds of millions of dollars of developments that we have financed that perform well, that are sustained through the life of their loan. And the oversight, in this case of Fannie Mae, sometimes has slowed things down to a level that we think is best to extricate ourselves from their oversight. So what we're proposing to do is to refund the bonds that are now held by the feds and bring it into the greater part of the open resolution. When we put the open resolution in place, we were very purposefully sort of didn't attach the bonds to the mortgage. It's not one for one. We can touch the bonds without touching the mortgage, but in this case what we're looking to do is to scoop them both out of the NIBP program and bring them to the larger open reso pool. In doing so, we'll achieve two benefits. We will be able to move this project more quickly to its permanent conversion. We'll also be able to lower the cost of borrowing versus what we're currently paying in NIBP. It's the first time that we're going in and refunding outstanding bonds under the open, but as the open reso ages, it's something I expect we're going to be doing on an ongoing basis, much the same as we do in the Sunny May resolution. We're always looking for opportunities to refund, lower our cost of borrowing.
Questions? Everybody down?
Now before the board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution's adopted.
Right, now we move to the AHC consent items. Item 25, resolution authorizing award of grant funds for certain projects and ratifying previous approval.
Now before the board is a resolution of the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation authorizing awards of grant funds for certain projects located inside and outside of the city of New York.
Okay,
Let's take it. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motions are carried and the resolution's adopted.
There being no further items for HFA Finance and Program Committee and the HFA and AHC boards, Adam will ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA Finance and Program Committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motions are carried. The committee meeting is adjourned, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA and AHC boards. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motions are carrying. The meetings are adjourned. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 15, 2015 at 8:30 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, thanks.